B-Bad and Brandon.
Recording in progress.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's through here, back here.
Oh, you got your
headphones back there.
right? Well, welcome back. For those listening,
It's our first part 2.
This is our first part 2, and we are back for Salvation part 2. I'm going to call it. I like this. I really like this. And
I'm amazed. I thought you would have. I thought the door. I would have been shown the door and said, "Oh look," we and when I came back, the doors are shut and the curtain sort of flutters a little bit. You know,
no, we're going down the rabbit hole here.
They're not here, but you can see the bloody curtain. That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome. But okay, so for those who have caught up, listen to part 1. We are listening to the incredible story of Mr. Ian Harvey. We've gone from the army, dentistry, to owning a farm, permaculture, being involved in your son's life. And now we just ended the last episode on talking about salvation, religious views, and working within your own God and finding.
Yeah, I think that's super cool.
I think that's great. Now, I have a question to kick us off, and then I'm sure we could just let Mr. Harvey talk for the next hour and a half. But, so, would you consider yourself a religious man?
Yes, absolutely, yes. My religious experience has changed or somewhat throughout my life, but certainly there's been an undercurrent of religion. So I was brought up without any real formalized religion because my parents gave up sending me to Sunday school because so
did mine.
My sisters, it didn't do much for my sisters, although one now is is certainly I would regard it as quite religious, and the other sisters probably agnostic, I'd suppose. But so as an older kid, as a teenager, if you want a kid to be religious, don't make them religious, because they'll do the opposite. If you force it down their throat, they'll do the opposite. So
that could probably be good parental advice for anything.
Yeah. So my parents were really nice parents. They're just basic. Mum and dad. Dad was a policeman, and mum. There was a policeman, and mum
in Brisbane.
Yeah, he was a policeman for about 38 years. So he was a detective in the CI branch for a long time, and then he was in he headed up the drug squad, the fraud squad, the traffic action appreciation squad. Then he went on to the police academy. He was the first commandant of the police academy, and he retired as the superintendent in charge of the police academy.
Yeah, right.
So he was a policeman all his life, and so I got a lot of respect for the police and what they go through. And people often said, "Do you want to, follow in Dad's footsteps?" I said, "Well, not right. Probably won't do anything except being a policeman, because it's a tough job." And you had shift work and they live and breathe it. And when he eventually retired, he used to dream about it for 6, 12, 18 months afterwards. It's part of his life. And so. So they were very straightforward, sensible people. But so I sort of became a little bit religious when I was probably in my last year of school. One of the teachers.
Was your Christianity or?
Christianity. Yeah, it was Christianity basically. And so because one of the teachers with evangelical Christianity, they want to convert people. So that's part of the thing is you got to go forth and make disciples of all the earth, sort of thing. So. This teacher, I went along to a he would do little talks after school, and I went along basically to intellectually humiliate him, because I was able to, with my little things. So all he did was he didn't play my little games. He just said, "Here, have you ever read the Bible?" I said, "No, not really." He said, "Well, here's a book of John, read it, and then come back to me." And so anyway, when I started,
he had your number covered.
Yeah, very clever. So don't engage in the semantics, just say read the bloody thing and see if you like it.
Then have a go at it.
So I read it, spoke to me, and so I got involved then. And so my parents, interesting enough, most parents say, particularly policeman, and my mum was a store detective, and but she they mostly say, don't get involved in drugs, don't go with bad people and things like that. They were saying, don't get too bloody involved in this shit, don't get to you're getting a bit obsessed with this sort of thing, So it wasn't really cult, because again, the some of the more extreme religions can be cult-like, mind you, these days, some other of the non-religious but ideological, groups can be cult-like too, and we get into that later on. But So I used to involve myself. So at uni, when most kids were going off, I decided I'd just involve myself in strip union camps, and we'd go and do study camps to help tutor kids, or we'd take canoe camps, take bushwalking. I used to do a lot of before we did this farm. I did all the farm stuff. I was involved. I just do a lot of bushwalking, and I spoke to Brendan the other. I was doing Federation Mountain Rescue, where you sort of train to rescue people in mountains, which I've never.
Of course.
Well, you don't really. It was like a firefight. You don't really hope you have a fire, but I suppose it's always, if you did have one, you'd be prepared. But I never actually ever rescued anyone. But so we used to take, I'd get with a group of people, we'd do a canoeing camp, you'd do a bushwalking camp, you'd do and so in your holiday sort of thing. And so I was involved more in a, I suppose, somewhat evangelical style church, which was a Baptist church. Only thing I did like Baptist church, you to become a member, you have to not drink alcohol. Ooh. And that was bad. And that's
a firm rule. Or a loose rule?
Well, interpretable. But anyway, I didn't become a member because whilst sometimes I like the precepts things, I don't like too much prescription, because
anything that requires a membership is usually
exactly the little bells go off.
When you're preaching something like a religious view, that's supposed to be welcoming. As soon as you have a membership attached to that,
you should be that's right, tolerant, because we're looking at tolerance. Is a very important thing, and inclusivity, a lot of things. And so anyway, so I went through that for uni years. And then once I got in the army is like boys' own annual, and you tend to become a little bit less religious when you're in the army. So I sort of put that on hold for a while.
I feel like just on pause. It's just a big rock out with your cock out in the army.
You hit the pause button for a little while. Okay, so it's a bit like Rumspringers when you have the Amish, or is it the Amish, or
they have their year off.
The year off, and they can do anything, and then they have to, they have to come back to the fold and guarantee forever. So it was sort of like an extended Rumspringers, but I didn't have to come back and say anything. So and so we and then, as I said, then along the journey, then you sort of get a little bit out of that mainstream sort of Christianity, I suppose, and then particularly when you're involving yourself with I was quite involved with things like conservation, and regional green thing is not what it is now. It's more like even like the original Greenpeace and all those things had. The trouble is, any organisation, including religious organisations, get politicised, and they then well-meaning concepts get clouded and lost in the politicisation, and then what might have been a really nice concept just fades by the way, and it's used to push another ideology or another thing. So, and the same with anyway. So, in a religious sense, you also then look at Eastern and all sorts of other. You're going through a process of challenging yourself and challenging what it means, what the concept of God or the concept of relationship, or a whole lot of what it means to you, and it's a refinement process. And so, as I said, for a while there, it was a thing where you still had a sense of spirituality, but you're really looking at the things like nature and growing and permaculture, that idea of mutualism, the idea of
so you really shifted towards that Eastern religion.
Very, very much so. And then
to put a label on it so we can all understand a bit better, is it like, do you know what religion was it? So,
well, you draw on lots of concepts, like, because in a Buddhist concept, for instance, they don't even really have necessarily a deity concept sort of thing. So, for instance, if you come to a house, there's a Kuan Yin, is a she's the like a goddess of mercy, Kuan Yin, and would be very popular today because she was gender fluid. He started off as a guy, and we was ahead of time. It was amazing. And so Kuan Yin, went to the gates of nirvana, and after having led an amazing life, and then instead of living a life of eternal bliss, looked back on the world of suffering and embraced compassionately the suffering, and went back to do those things. And but hers was a life that in the Buddhist sense, a life of refinement and a life of understanding. And then some religions or some things have not so much a pantheistic, they have an idea, a nature sort of thing. But basically, I think that always you've got an idea of something bigger than yourself. But also the other thing is that while we're looking at not necessarily copying these things, a lot of the old religions have a history of a narrative and an immense history where we can learn from. In other words, they just haven't sprung up overnight. And so when we're trying to look at those, I've got such a reverence for these because they've thought about things so much. So you're trying to get into what they're saying and what they mean. And it's something that's happened over years and years, over centuries. And so I think that's a problem with today, is that a lot of the things spring up. People are looking for religion, or they're looking for something. And it was being said before, when Nietzsche said God is dead, he said that the world would be a problem because we no longer had this God, and that we'd try and have something to replace him. And then Nietzsche prophetically thought that we'd have, all sorts of things to replace him, including, totalitarian sort of regimes and all sorts of things. And I think today people are still searching and wanting that meaning and wanting that sort of extra dimension. But they often cling upon an ideological thing, which is sort of 2 days old or 3 days old. Whereas I always think we can learn immense things from the past. And in fact, if we don't learn from the past, we're not going to know what our future is, or we're not going to be able to be prepared for our future. So I think to prepare us for our future, we need to really understand fully what our past is.
I agree, see what's done well and what's been done wrong.
Exactly.
What could be done better, I should
say.
say.
We can never connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect them looking back.
Exactly. And you can be very wise, can't you? But you can't connect them. But it can give you some sort of insight, predictive insight, I suppose, to see what worked and what didn't work. And certainly it can help you then say, well, that didn't work really well. Maybe we should change that.
But I think even to a greater extent, it's about looking back on, not each religion, because I personally believe that, whatever God you want to pray to, whatever, that's all good for you. But I think each religion is they each have something the other one's missing. And that overlaid all over each other, you have a complete ideal. And then there's just foundational principles across every religion that seem exactly the same.
Absolutely. That's probably a pretty good absolute assessment of it. Yeah, because a lot of religions have the idea of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or don't do unto others as you would have them. In other words, there's that universal thing of don't treat people like you want to be treated yourself.
I'm pretty sure most religions also say don't kill each other.
That's right. And exactly. They have a precept.
Agree with that.
Yeah. And so there's fundamental precepts in there. And then that helps, those then have helped guide society and give us things. And so even from a Christian religion, I think a lot of this concept of social justice, of feminism, of a lot of the things we enjoy today have had their basis in Christianity. I mean, in terms of the teachings of Christ sort of thing. The same as there's a lot of other religions that have given some really good insights in the way we should live and the way we should respect other people and respect things and even respect nature.
I couldn't agree with that more, because I think it's like anything, any war that's ever started from religious views, there's always been an extremist in every sense, not even just religion, politics or anything. But it's those underlying principles of, I think there's a what do you call it, if you can look at religion, this is again my own personal belief, you can look at religion for what it is and then take a step back and have a look at the whole picture, the underlying principles. If you were to walk forward with that, that's fine. Like, you don't have to be a dick about it with anything.
Could be a pretty good human.
100%. Like, I just think then that faith is never external, because it's always internal, that if you can live by these principles, you're just a good fucking human.
Absolutely. And also it embodies tolerance, respect and understanding for other people. And then in my little intro, that little intro I gave you thing is not, it's actually taken from a verse from Micah 6:8, where and it's the one I've used for a lot of my life. So but in the thing I said, where we wanted to love mercy. Mercy is essentially is forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very important to have a sense of forgiveness to other people. And I see that as a problem today where we're missing out on forgiveness because we're living in a world where people now, and particularly with social media and everything like that, you say something that people don't like and you can be ostracized, you can be cancelled, you can lose your job. And so one of the important, none of us are perfect, and we all need chance for redemption. If I do something to upset you, I'd like the chance to say, I'm really sorry. And will you forgive me? And
too quick jump the other way, don't we?
No, out of here. Yeah, I don't go. Oh, banished. You're banished. You're banished. And we're getting rid of people for things that change so quickly.
Such a black and white society
Yeah,
now.
and it's frightening to navigate because
mistake.
100% doesn't
say you become a better person, right?
Yeah, that's right. And
I mean, between all three of us, I'm sure we've made a wealth of mistakes for a lifetime.
Absolutely, all the time. That's right. We're so fallible. We're not perfect by any means, and but we just want to try hard, and we don't really want to set out to hurt and to be nasty, and we all need some sort of guidance, and also we grow by talking to each other. And I mightn't agree with someone, but I'll grow and listen, and then there might be something that they say
that triggers a response in something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's worthwhile. Otherwise, you tend to you size them up, black hat, white hat, like the old cowboys, and you say, oh, yeah, there's nothing I can learn from them because they believe in this or they believe in that,
That's so true.
Being able to be open is really important.
Oh, 100%. Like, taking it from a spiritual level back down to a more applicable, I guess, setting is like, we see it all the time as coaches. Like I may not agree with another coach in their whole methodology, but I might pick out something of one thing that I like. Oh, that could really apply here. So I think it is, as you said before in the first episode, that salvation you thought came from almost isolating yourself, but it comes from connection to another human being.
Absolutely.
And finding I think a little bit of yourself in someone else that you can then apply and overlay to your life.
Absolutely. That's a very profound way of looking at things, because you need that connection. We're wired for that, and also that's how we grow.
100%.
And we grow in all those different. But if we block the connections, or if we start to become too prescriptive, or and we talked about the bad religion, the ideological religions, or the ones that say I know the way, this is the truth, and everyone else is they're all pretending. You're cutting off that whole avenue of dialogue
and growth.
And growth, yeah.
You're just cutting off your own experience.
Absolutely.
To this whatever path we are deemed to walk.
Yeah, and it's I think a very individual path, because I can't relate to your exact path, because I can't step into your shoes and your life, but it's made you what you are, and I respect that. And there's something we're learning.
I think it's a talk about the respect aspect there. Just prompted a thought. We can't walk in each other's shoes, 100%.
No,
but we can all respect that we have walked a path. Like your journey is your journey, and I can see if whatever your trauma, whatever you want to fucking call it is, you bear those scars as you walk, and I can respect that. I can respect hard work as well. It's like I don't like CrossFit. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't like CrossFit, but I would never do, myself CrossFit, but I can appreciate and respect the fact, the level of athlete they are, because I can look at them and go, well, fuck, you have dedicated yourself to this whole belief. That's insane. And I can respect hard work.
Yeah. That's just the ability to be an open-minded human.
I think so. But I also think it comes from a deeper, having walked a path yourself of hard work, like you can appreciate that in someone else, and one thing I was always taught was you can't identify a quality in others that you don't possess yourself. So I couldn't identify courage in you if I didn't have courage or have experienced courage before. I can't expect you to forgive me if I've never forgiven before. And I think that's a really good way to look at things, because if we are asking people to do things, whether it be as coaches or at a fucking, more metaphysical level, if we're asking someone to do this thing, it comes back to that treat the way you want to treat other people. So I think it's a lot of it comes that, and learning to understand self and where your areas or you may lack in understanding, or being open and opening yourself up to a much greater experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have a much better human experience.
100. That's it, though. A much better human experience.
And grow. That's how you grow.
Exactly.
Yeah. But also, and it has also how you get how you lead, how you get the best out of people, because people can see that authenticity, I suppose.
100%.
And that's what's lacking a lot of times too. Is we can
thanks
say
to these things, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, for those who are listening, I'm waving my phone.
You have the ability to no longer be authentic. With that,
100%.
you can create whoever you want it to be.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're not careful, you start to believe in that.
Yeah,
that reality you create for yourself.
I reckon the most authentic person I know is probably Johnny. He is exactly the same, whether he's on social media, off social media, wherever he is, he doesn't change. And that's his best quality. That's why he's a great leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're setting the path and you're leading by, and someone will crawl over the broken glass. They'll jump into the machine guns because he's a person I want to follow.
If he said, probably not right now, thanks to my ankle, but if he said jump 10 feet, I'd jump 10 feet.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's, I think, for a business owner, like if we were going to bring it back to something, I don't know, I'm really enjoying this chat. But for Johnny as a leader of Fortitude Barbell, he's created a community of people that will do anything.
There's loyalty. There's loyalty, absolute loyalty, and it's loyalty that is given freely. It's given freely, and also that's what true leadership is. But it's funny when you look at leaders. It's hard. The question is, are they made or are they, born? Or it's a tough one. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I was thinking, going back to
down this rabbit hole.
Teach a leader how to be a leader.
Yeah, because back in my school experience, again, without trying to, I would never mention names and things like that. But part of my job was to get a second leader, a second headmaster, and I was on a committee, and we looked at getting the second headmaster, and so. And we end up giving it a choice between an older bloke and a younger bloke, a young sort of, someone who was really up and coming, had all the, and an older bloke who was sort of in there towards the end, but had all the experience and all the, they knew all the experience and things like that. And then, we end up giving it to the younger person to, as a, part of their journey, and also there's a number of reasons anyway, but I've always felt that I let it was a really nice person, but it wasn't a leader, what I mean? And at the time you look at all the aspects that and you ticked it off, you spoke to previous people who work with them, and
but do you think a leader is cultivated by the environment they're in? Like, do you think a person, so you reckon if we took Johnny out of Fortitude Barbell and replaced it with someone else, it'd be the same leadership?
No, definitely. Well, you can't necessarily replace a single person with another person, and they'll have a different style. Now, that style will depend. They might be able to still create a culture that is based on their style, and they may get people to follow. But it depends very much upon the culture that they create. So I think that leadership is about having attributes, and you've got to have those attributes, and whether you learn them or whether you get them, I don't know. But with those attributes, you've got to then encourage a culture and encourage people to journey and to go with you. And that takes, you talked about leading by example. It takes a lot of things, but it's there's no necessary, there's 5 steps. And this is the playbook. The playbook for great leaders. Let's do these 3 things. Let's have coffee day, and let's do this and let's do that. There is again, it comes back to authenticity. It comes back to the real essence of the person, and I think that's probably
is that done by trial by fire though. So if I'm going to keep picking on Johnny. He's definitely the best. And but you talked about before, you're asking someone else to walk the journey you've done. So that leadership, I believe, is created. That leadership mindset's cultivated because he's walked the path that others have.
Absolutely. For a start, you got to have a person who's principled and who is an example, albeit the way they commit, the way they do things, they have a print, but it's got to be a slightly bigger than, you've got to create a sort of a bigger than yourself persona in a sense. What I'm saying by that is it's got to be a very strong, you have a strong persona where people, again, look up to, but what are they looking up to? I think they're looking up to the commitment, the standards, principles, and they're looking up to consistency. And also there's a number of things they look up to, but I think people want to have good leadership. They want to have direction, and they want to be told from a kid. A kid needs to be told what to do. They just can't be let go, run wild. If they have boundaries, they can work within those boundaries, but they need to have some direction if they don't know things. And
free range.
Exactly. And so in an art or a skill like training, you need to have direction. You have, people might want to go free range, but you essentially you're asking, but you're asking someone for their advice. And then you need to be able to take it, and you're more likely to take it if you've got respect. And then it comes down to a number of factors. And so if you get a break in the chain, you might have a person who's got a lot of, everything's just ticking the boxes, but then people won't respect them for some reason, or there's something about them, or, there's a breakdown in those couple of things, and that can then create an issue with their leadership. With
the young bloke you hired for that school, do you think an issue would have that, talking about people not coming along with his leadership? Do you think it's because he was never a headmaster? Some teachers just didn't. Could have been as a younger. You've got to give someone maybe they didn't give him a break. Maybe because there can be issues there too. Maybe the older people didn't give him a break. Maybe maybe he was trying to implement his decisions, and then maybe he vacillated, and maybe I don't know. It could be a number of things, but. And I'm sure he's moved on, and I'm sure he's probably now being a very good leader, and being a good leader. I've never really kept contact, but I guess, and it's easy for me to say, but I mean, I guess I was. Things turned out differently to what I would have thought. So I don't want to be judgmental at all, but all I'm saying is that I would have thought the outcome would have been different, so do you think given all the criteria. Because I mean, it's a good because I'm looking at trying to find someone and look at all these criteria, and you go and you talk to people and you're ticking them. So say for instance, we've got to replace Johnny as a coach, and you go Australia wide and you talk to different lifting people, and they say, this guy is just, or girl is amazing, and they're up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and you get all these sort of ticks and things like that. That's all you can go on is the information, and in the end, you think until you're in it, exactly. And then that's what we talk about, the authentic and all the rest of it. So you don't know what the story is going to be until you're in it. And we can prepare for war. Tell you all the stories you like, tell you how good I am. It's not until you actually
face the battle.
The battle. That's right. When you face the battle, you face that thing down. That's when you have all the theory in the world.
So do you think leaders are born or made?
Good question.
I think you're both.
I think
I think you're both. I think some people are pre-designed for it.
Yep.
But then they also create themselves as well through learning. Like a good leader will learn, right? They'll happily drive and take their path and their direction, but they're going to make their mistakes. And then the good one is going to learn from those mistakes. And
100%.
And also, I think a good one is going to make more because they're ready to take risks and go on the edge. Sometimes you go a little too far and learn from that.
I think because the whole nature nurture question can be applied to all sorts of things. But I think the way I look upon it is it's a combination. I think they're born and made, but they're born in the sense that we're all born with different gifts, and there's no, people aren't equal. People are different, and some people have just got advantages over other people the way they're born. Simple as that. Then it's the way they use those advantages.
Like physical or
mental, physical, everything. That's right. If you're going to be a superior, you're born with a VO2. If you're born with a capacity, the potential for VO2 max of 65, and then you can increase it to 75 or 80, you're going to be an amazing endurance athlete. Whereas if you're born with 40 or 30, you're never going to increase it to 85. What I mean, there's people who are just born amazing. If you're a sprinter, if you know, I'm not going to look like Usain Bolt. Yeah, his anatomy is different to mine, and he won't be a great marathon runner, but he's an amazing
I think it was sprinter. Napoleon Hill who wrote that you were born with 3 gifts at birth, and what you do with those gifts is up to you and how you define it. So,
and hopefully you find them.
Yeah, because I think I'm still undecided. I don't know if you're born with it, but I think through, like, I reckon you put someone, we're all born as a child, and that environment that we grew up in is going to dramatically play an effect of how we view things, and then how our perception of it.
Absolutely.
And then I think that's the process of where we're made into it. Oh shit!
No, exactly. So it's your social environment will change a lot of your perception. It will change also your social environment will either enhance the gifts you've got, or cultivate or not enhance them, and so they never ever flourish. So there's a lot of environmental things, but we can't. But by no means can we say that all of our attributes are simply a matter of social construct or social, because we know for a fact that things are born, and we also know for a fact that there is differences in the way people are in people, and there are fundamental biological differences, and also there's fundamental physical and psychological difference in sets of people, sort of thing. Right. So I think that, because this is the whole nature nurture sort of question, and how you can do tests whereby you sort of you can do a variety of tests, for instance. Helen, my wife said, don't run down rabbit holes and things like that. So because
we spend our time at the rabbit hole.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, it's our home.
We're going to Wonderland here, and I'm always falling down that thing.
But for instance, you can, if you have a question with toys, okay, so you can say that why would a boy play with something and a girl? There should be no difference. It's simply socialization, okay. And so if you socialize kids to play with whatever, there's not a biological thing at all, okay. But then if you want to test that, you can look at cross-cultural things. You can look at different cultures whereby there's not a cultural imperative. In other words, if you let kids just go without any cultural thing, conditioning, then you see there's a preference that might lend to the thing. You look at close relations and primates and things like that, where primates aren't necessarily going to culturally condition things. And if you see differences and things like that, then you can look at genetic things where some people are born with basically male attributes or female attributes because of hormonal imbalances and things like that. And so if you look at a combination of those things, if you see that there is or seems to be some sort of preference and things like that, you might think to yourself there could be a slight biological, but there could be a component of biological basis that's not just, and so what I mean, there's ways of testing these predictive things. Whereas when we're looking at more broader concepts like leadership and things like that, it's very difficult to do things. But I think essentially we've got, we're born with those gifts, and as you said, that's the way you're socially brought up, the way your environment, the way and that has enormous impact upon us, absolutely enormous impact. And but very much we're still born with a certain attributes and things like that, and not all of we can't put every attribute down to the way we grew up and things like that. Yeah, that's right. And you can, therefore you can't necessarily change. There are things there that will be hardwired, or there are things that are in you that you can't necessarily change. If you are changing them, you're then trying to change something that's really part of you.
Trying to change DNA.
Yeah, trying to change you. And so that comes down to then, I think, the question, because one of the things I talked about in my little preamble, how I said I tried to act justly. And so, and exactly, because one of the things we talk about is justice is very important in our world today. And we talk a lot about social justice, and social justice to me is having all of us having equal opportunity. It's very important because a lot of times people are denied the opportunity. So I think in a world that we want to reach out, we want to give people equal opportunity. But I think where I have a problem, we can't give people equal outcome. Because
that's a fucking good, that's a good differentiation there. Because
equal outcomes is presuming we all have the ability to do the same. And it's not, I want to be a star at this lifting competition. And I think that what should happen is I should get, because I'm older and because I've got long legs and because I'm not set up for weightlifting, I think I should get different rules that apply to me. Would you think that would be fair or not?
Yeah, right. I've never thought of it like that. That's a fucking good.
Because
these are the rules.
Because really, I'm in a sense, I'm not really set out. Well, somehow the world's been against me because of the way I am. I can't lift as much as I should, but I think I should be at the same.
Yeah, right.
But it doesn't work that way. What I mean is we can't all have an equal outcome.
But we can all have equal opportunity.
Absolutely. But not everyone's going to be a jet pilot. Not everyone's going to be a brain surgeon. And it shouldn't be that way, because I don't want a brain surgeon who got their chance to do brain surgery because they got 5 legs up that other people didn't, so that we could even the score a little bit because they had some sort of problem here or problem there or disadvantage or whatever.
And we let it slide.
We let it slide. So we wanted them because we had to get someone who fitted their criteria as a brain surgeon.
Right.
And so rather than just let people who want to do brain surgery are good at it, we said we've got to get someone, and it's only fair that we let them. Well, it's not only fair. You just got to have, to me, you have a criteria, the way you do things, and it's
equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity, absolutely equal opportunity.
Everyone can have a shot at that.
Absolutely, and then you can and provide the best environment and encourage them and do the rest of it. But you're going to
got to have the skill and the criteria to match
it. Yeah, and the other, what people don't know, there's a bell curve. Bell curve.
The mighty bell curve.
Bell curve. Everything. Bell curve. I want to be good. I at school, the only ribbon I ever got was, I think I got a 3rd in tunnel ball. And I mean, that was my only ribbon. That was the only ribbon. And then I remember once we used to go to school fetes, and you have to have the competitions. And I think I came home once in grade 7 with a bar of soap or something because I caught a fish in the tank, and I thought, I was hopeless. There was, and I just, because in school in my days, not everyone got a prize.
I'm a big believer in that.
Not everyone got a prize. And as I said, you had to be good. And then not everyone got picked in the team.
Bloody Pete got all the prizes.
They got all the prizes. That's right. I was still, they'd finished 100 meters. I was still going.
You went to school with Pete?
Yeah.
I went
Pete's a couple of years older.
Yeah, a couple of years older than me. Pete,
fuck that guy.
Yeah. We went same school. So, but I got a 3rd purple ribbon in tunnel ball. That was it. That was the only thing I ever got.
Hasn't meant for sport like that.
Hasn't destroyed me. Hasn't destroyed me. And I've tried and done lots of things, and some successfully, some not successfully. Never been, but it hasn't stopped me trying and things like that. And it hasn't made me feel bad. It's just that
I fucking hate that we give participation awards.
That's just the way. That's the way things are. I can't. Not everyone can be good at something. Not everyone can be made feel good, and not everyone. And it didn't make me feel bad that I crap at it. I just. Unfortunately, that's just the way things work.
You weren't meant for tunnel ball, though.
No. And cross country, I remember at cross country, when I at Pete's school, and in grade 8 or Form 2, I think I came, 289th or something, and in cross country, 364th in cross country. I a little pudgy in those days, little bit of pudgy baby fat, little pudgy. So things so I started to run, and so I'd run, and I think I came, came 200th next year. Then I came, 82nd, and then in grade 12, I think I came about 6th or something, or 7th, 6th, or it wasn't first, but I think that's pretty good. If you're 380th or something, you came 6th or 7th or something like that.
By the time you're done,
you're done. That's all right. but I worked fucking hard to do it, and fortunately, I was a long skinny streak that I could probably, and so sort of that sort of thing suited me a little bit, sort of thing. But that's all you can do is work as hard as you can. You'll be as good as you can, but I'm not going to be good at everything.
Fucking really like that though. Equal opportunity. Yeah,
I like that. Not a lot of people do that.
Nobody wants to work hard anymore.
But that's to me real social justice, and I will get people. They'll argue and things like that. But we can't have. Once someone says to me, "We want equal outcome here," my eyes roll in my head, and I'm not, but I know I'm in for a rocky set of conversations. And also, I know from a social perspective that the world they want to live in is different to the world I want to live in, and also it won't work out. That in the end, it's going to end in grief.
Just in case we do go down another rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I lost my train of thought off that. Hang on, wait. You said equal
opportunity.
As opposed to equal outcome. Yeah. So we can't. Yeah. So we're saying we all love equal opportunity, but I'm saying that if people are espousing that we always have to have equal outcomes, then we're going down we're going to end in grief. Our society will end in grief because we're not looking at a society that's based on competence and on
which is trying to cater to everyone's feelings.
That's it. Yeah. We're trying to do a lot of things. We're trying to overcome.
It's okay for your feelings to be hurt. I just want to point out, like, it's okay for you not to.
Not everyone's going to agree on everything.
Not everything's going to agree, but like that builds resilience.
Yeah, absolutely. And often we can have an idea which is fundamentally out of good intent. So but then in the real world, it doesn't necessarily work out. So we don't want to hurt people's feelings. We don't, and we want to give people who are marginalized or people who haven't had opportunity, we want to give them a leg up and a hand up, and that's great. We always want to help and do that, but we can't. We recognizing the fact there's a bell curve, recognize the fact we can't have equal outcomes, and therefore, and at the end of the day, we've got to have some selection based upon merit. And then the argument is, someone they were better at because opportunity they had, their parents, their upbringing, or they might have merit, they might have they took drugs, and so in other words, they've cheated sort of. And I think the implication is in some ways that people who've had better opportunity, not that they cheated, but they've had they've had a unfair advantage sort of thing. Well, everyone has advantage.
It's available to everyone.
And there's a situation where sometimes you've just got to say, I've got to step up to the plate. I've got to take responsibility for my life. And at some point, you've got to stop blaming other people. You've got to stop saying it's everyone else's fault. You've got to take ownership. And that's how we grow. And otherwise, we're never going to grow.
That's how leaders are born.
Exactly.
First lead ourselves.
Yeah, and that's how leaders get the best out of people. So you get a group of people, and often I think we lack that leadership, because in groups of people who are not knowing what they want to do and they're dispossessed or they're unhappy, if they have strong leadership and strong direction, they'll look up to them.
They also have a strong message.
Yeah.
Every great leader of the past has always had a strong message. You can argue that, we don't need to argue, but what Hitler did was fucking terrible.
No, but he had a strong message.
He had a strong message, and he's been quoted as one of the best leaders of history.
Very, very persuasive, and he utilized a lot of techniques of stirring up
shit cunt.
But nationalism and stirring up a real unity in a sense, and those playbooks. If you want unity, you sort of blame someone else. There's a whole lot of things you can do for unity, but with the leader, you want to be like the leader. A good leader, they say, people look at them, they say, there's attributes of them which I want to aspire to. I want to be like that leader.
I think, personally believe, the greatest leader of our time would be Martin Luther King Jr.
He's a fantastic leader, absolutely. And I mean, and that's in a way too. Again, he's a hero, absolute hero. But we, again, without going down rabbit holes, we unfortunately are getting away from his precepts. His precept was to judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. That was his dream, and that was what he wanted to do. And today,
that's such a strong message.
That's the message we have to do. We can't judge people by the color of the skin. And what happens is, otherwise, when we start to see racism where it doesn't exist, we can't fix racism with racism. In other words, if you want to fix racism, you've got to look at, firstly, look at the attitude, look at attitudes and look at culture, I think, but also look beyond. I really think we need to. He wanted us to look beyond color and look at people as people, and look and be colorblind. And I mean, again, people.
But I think this ties back to what you said before about looking to the past in terms of religious sense to get the ideas and principles. I wonder how many people you go up on the street and you said, you know, the words, "I have a dream."
Yeah.
If they'd even know who the fuck said that.
Exactly. It was such an important
really
message.
Scary.
It's such and you can't ever lose sight of that, because if you lose sight of that message or you dilute that message, you've lost a pivotal point in time, because that's and he had come historically from that period where there's been so much. There had been historically problems. There'd been issues, and he's come from a sense of unification, trying to unify people together, and that's what we need to do. We need to bring everyone together and unify them, not look at divisions and differences and trying to look at separating people into, you know, groups and tribes and races. We're all absolutely humans, exactly. And respect as that, and quite literally in terms of, I mean, I've got friends, good friends all over of every nationality. If you want to go down the actual, and I'm completely colorblind in the sense I don't look at them as being Indian. I don't look at them as being Tongan. I don't look at them as being Japanese. I don't look at them being, and they're people. They're humans. And
the only time I look at their nationality is when I ask them if they can cook for me.
They can. Some
You're Samoan? Oh, give me some traditional food, please.
Yeah, come with some specific skill sets.
Yes.
Very good.
and I know that, and again, but so I think we need to talk in bigger terms and to try and transcend divisions that occur. And I agree. I think we need to hold dear Martin Luther King's idea that we really need to look at what's inside a person, what's making them, not the superficiality.
I think, if we were to, you know, try and tie a message behind this podcast, you know, don't forget our past, connect the dots looking back.
Absolutely.
And walk forward with those principles just to be a good fucking
human. And don't try and reinvent, and don't try and the past is the past, but we can learn lots from it, and it's so important. And also don't try and obliterate the past. I think you've got to really learn from the past, warts and all, and it's such an amazing message. You know, you don't
learn the good and the bad.
Absolutely. You can't just
we can't just turn a blind eye to the bad. It happened.
That's right. We move on, and we learn, from it. The same as we make mistakes. We're talking about mistakes. We always make mistakes, and the world will hopefully not will judge us in the sense that we were trying at the time, in our own way, in our own culture, in our own time, to do the best we can. And so I guess, again, without going around, I this is like an advertisement. I honestly believe that we live in the best time in human history ever, and I believe we live in possibly the best place in the world in terms of, you know, in other words, if you had to go on a time machine, if you're an alien or something, or if you're from TikTok time, or if you're from the future and you wanted to come back somewhere here, or we had a choice, would you rather come back now or 100 years ago? What would you rather do?
I really like now. Now is very nice.
Now it's very nice, but the curiosity is like, I would just want to see it.
Can I go back and have a little looky?
Have a look,
but not then come back here.
But not what they did wrong, and appreciate what I had.
It would be great, and also knowing what we know now, wouldn't it be? And you'd be you'd roll your eyes all the time, saying, "No, idiots."
I'd love to go run around in medieval times.
Go back even further.
But I don't want to stay there. I'm having a holiday, and then I'm coming back to now.
Go back there. Because it'd be a terrible time. You know, imagine medieval time. Most of your life would be spent just surviving.
And a very short one at that too.
Yeah, you wouldn't have time to train, because any energy would be sent to probably stopping some bastard killing you, or just surviving. And it'd be a horrible you'd be on adrenaline, you'd be looking around the place, you know, your life expectancy is probably 35 or something like that.
Yeah.
You get some infection or some disease, you're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead. I mean, you know, we just live in such, this is amazing. What an amazing thing. We're talking to each other, you're recording that, and it can go all over the place. 100%. And then just people will look at me and say, that old bastard, I hate him, you know. He's
very underappreciated.
Yeah.
And right now too, I believe.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
And again, we're going to tie back to religion, be grateful.
Yeah, exactly. And also
gratitude.
And it's gratitude that comes back to that idea, that last one being of walking with some sort of humility, is that you're grateful. We wake up in the morning and you're on one piece, and a bloody clot hasn't broken loose or something. You should be grateful. I mean, it's just amazing, because there's so many things. I marvel at the fact your body works like it does, and that you don't wake up, some bloody thing happens in you, and when it does go wrong, it really puts you back in, and you think, God, you know, what happens here? What happens there? You know,
guilty.
Yeah.
Felt that.
Yeah,
and I love it. I absolutely, and I reckon we could keep going for days with just talking. But I reckon
part 3 another day.
Part 3, but we could finish on the fact that just how amazing. I've been great. I think let's be grateful for what we have
and this conversation right now.
And the fact we can say it. Also, I'm grateful for the fact we can talk here, that we haven't got someone kicking the doors down to saying you're being subversive or we don't like what you're saying. We can freely say things. We can freely say our things. And
places you can't do that.
And when people take so much for granted, I just think I'm just so grateful of where we are and what we're doing.
100%. Now, for us to be grateful, we're going to hit you with 10
big questions.
10 big questions. Okay.
They're rapid fire. I'll take that for you, buddy.
Okay, thanks. This is the
wife, I'm sure.
Pressure cooker, bro.
It's a pressure cooker. There was a thing on someone sent me the other day. Was it? I saw a program. It was a program on channel on the weekend. It's a weekend program I watch, and they had this thing. They said, "What do you?" Actually, I probably shouldn't say it because it's a political sort of thing. But
we just spent the whole 2 hours talking about it, whatever. So go for it.
Let it rip, baby.
Well, it could be. Poor old Joe Biden. So I said, what do you trust less about Joe Biden? So the guy said, a blood transfusion from Charlie Sheen, breast milk from Bruce Jenner, a mixed drink for Bill Crosby, Roadhouse sushi. This is what else do you have? Somalian cruise liner.
Right.
Helen Keller flying a plane.
Nothing was off limits.
That's pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah,
these are things I don't trust. So they're rapid fire questions I don't want to answer. So he's already
answered. We got this. These are very random.
Question number 1: what's the fear you'd like to overcome?
It's really rapid fire. These are failure, always.
Good one. Fucking
Ian, 2-part question. Who's your best friend?
My wife.
Lovely. That's Helen for everyone at home.
Yes,
shout out Helen. You're awesome.
Helen. She's amazing.
This is a little tricky. Now, I need you to know and understand Helen is okay right now. However, she has been kidnapped.
Yep.
She's okay, so don't stress on that part. However, there is some time restraints around her being okay, and you need to deliver some money. You got the money. No stress. The drive is about 1 hour to get there. You've got 2 hours, so plenty of time to get that money down there to get Helen back. Now, what song are you going to listen to while you're driving to deliver the money?
Lady Gaga, Bad Romance.
Yes. Fucking track.
I like it. What did you want to be when you left school?
As in high school?
Yes.
A dentist.
Lovely. What makes you grumpy?
Being less tolerant, or it's a good point. Not having my inner peace, sort of thing. Be the times when you let your persona slip. In other words, we have this sense of calmness when about us. Centered. Yeah, not centered. Yeah, and I'm trying to come across as a really, yet something will cause you to sort of snap. And it could be something that then you're brought back to life, and then often Helen say, "Come on, that wasn't reasons where you should be." So probably that reminds me I'm not as much in the Buddhist serene sense as I should. I should be a more serene and calm person.
I like it. Most embarrassing, or one of the most embarrassing things you own. What is something embarrassing you own?
Oh,
unless you own it, you're probably not embarrassed by it.
No, yeah, because I really can't. This is a very hard one too, because I'm quite happy having people come, in the house and have a, because if you had something embarrassing, you would hide it if someone came, or you'd put it in the bedside table or something like that. I can't. I don't know. That's really hard for me to.
The answer can be nothing.
No. Well, at the moment, the most embarrassing thing for me was it for people to see.
Yes,
is my bison belt, because my son got me a amazing weightlifting bison belt, and so after I had a little setback a week or two, I feel a bit sort of pathetic and weak, sort of building up things. So I'm feeling I don't deserve the bison belt. I need to have it.
That's
I need to
dope.
A little side story for the Harvey clan here. They all have matching bison belts.
That's fucking adorable.
Very cute. And we're all going to do a deadlift comp together in the matching bison belts, I think.
So, I feel I'm letting the team down. I'm not the weapon. The others are weapons. So I'm a sort of a
You're a weapon. You're a seasoned weapon.
I just feel not deserving of the bison legend.
Most proud moment?
Probably when we had, we always said Helen's my best friend, but probably when we had our baby. Well, Helen had our baby together. Yeah. So amazing moment when you have a little kid. Absolutely
That's
amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Little Elliot.
Shout out.
I do enjoy seeing Elliot's baby photos. They're exceptional when they're shared with me. You've been given a boat. What are you going to name your boat?
Probably Born Loser, and I'll spell it wrongly.
Love it. Messiest person you know?
Helen would say me.
I was going to say that. Oh, good. And worst smell you've ever smelled?
There is a joke answer for that, which I won't give you, but it's
you built it up.
No, I'll tell you separately because I don't think I've got to assess the likes and I'll have to go and I'll have to get some means of assessing how I was before I can maybe if you ever invite me back a third time, this is something they can listen. I'll say, what was that joke question? So I'll tell you off air. But the worst smell I've ever is a duck egg. It's an exploding rotten duck egg. We used to keep ducks, and my parents did, and then we kept them obviously on the farm. So you get a rotten duck egg. When it explodes, it gets up into your nose. And you smell a rotten duck egg for days afterwards. So it's a pretty bad smell. But if you ever get me back again, and I've checked that I've got a little bit of leeway, that I'm only hated a certain amount. That you have that sort of little reservoir of good and bad. So if you only have a certain level of hate, I can push it a bit further.
Love that.
We're coming back,
mate. It has been an honor to have this conversation with you across these 2 episodes, and people listening to it, you're going down a rabbit hole. You've gone down a rabbit hole. You're coming back to reality. Really appreciate your time. Where can people find you? If they want to know more stories, if they want to find out anything about you, how can they get in contact?
I've got very little social media presence. I've got a Facebook, which I never look at, never talk. My wife does Helen does all the Facebook stuff. So
updates. We'll put you in touch with Helen then.
Yeah. So I've got I don't have a lot of social media things.
You'll find his story on the platform.
I love that.
Through Be Bad or whatever, and otherwise, I don't know, through.
Flick me a message.
I don't know how do people get in contact with someone?
Write you a letter.
Write a letter to Fortitude Barbell, and I'll pass it down the chain.
I don't know. I'll have to have. That's interesting. But do people actually?
3/69 Montpellier Road, 4006. Just send that letter. Care John. Be Bad for Ian Harvey.
To Be Bad, yeah. But I, because snail mail, only check I check it every couple of days. But we've got enough sort of advertising and things like that to fill that up. So
send it to me.
I've got email, but then I hardly check. Well, I got all these advertising.
So what we're going to say is, you just have to be written to.
Well, care of me, and I'll pass.
Smoke signal.
We might have to, if I get sufficient response, I might you can put it on one of your podcasts as an addendum. Yeah. So we had such an amazing response of hate mail that we wanted to. We're sick of it. It's actually making us feel so depressed in reading it that I'm going to actually give you his email or his address or somebody thing. So
just mobile and email.
Yeah.
Mate, you're a legend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks.
Mate, we'll get you back on for part 3.
Hey, thanks, brother. Hey,